based on some reporting from the Washington Post the other day, that there are only 4 teams in the league that are under 88%, I believe, vaccinated. Based on what Brandon said the other day, the Bills would be one of those 4. At what point does this issue stop being about individual freedoms or personal choice and start being about the greater good, whether that's for the team or for society overall?
Well, and I think I heard Coach Saban talk about this on television. I think there's a personal decision and there's a competitive decision. And so certainly the personal decision is left up to everyone in terms of their beliefs and their feeling what's right. And then the competitive decision is based on what's best for the team, obviously, in this case. So at the end of the day, on the personal end of things, people have to make their own decision based on what they feel is right.
You've had a player now, Deion Dawkins, say that he spent 4 days in the hospital. He wasn't sure whether he was going to get out. You've had another player, Tommy Sweeney, miss a season based on a heart condition that resulted from a positive COVID test. If those 2 examples aren't enough for their teammates, do you just kind of throw your hands up and wonder what it's going to take for these guys who aren't getting vaccinated to do it?
Well, listen, there's plenty of evidence, and this is, in my opinion, there's plenty of evidence of why you should get vaccinated, right? And that's what I did. That's my own personal beliefs. And so, like I said before, everyone has their own beliefs and I respect those. But in my opinion, in my beliefs, there's plenty of evidence to get vaccinated.
Sean, how difficult is it not from becoming a distraction, given the fact we've been talking about this? This will be the second day of this week. We've been talking about this, given Isaiah McKenzie's tweet, and that he potentially put his own teammates at risk by not being masked. How much of a distraction can this become?
Well, you always have to be aware of what's going on in our world, right? Whether it's COVID in the last year and a half or 2 years now or whatever it's been, or anything else in terms of current events out there. So you try and do your best to balance what's happening in our world with still trying to stay focused on the task and the goal at hand and the purpose why we're here, which is to win games.
I know you don't follow social media, but a lot of your players are tweeting in response to what's happening. So the question is does it seem like their focus is on football, given that they're on social media right now tweeting about what happened to Isaiah?
Yeah, well, I think that part of that's going to happen in our day and age of what's out there in the world that a lot of these guys live in and you live in, and I live in, quite frankly. It's unfortunate when players get fined, right? That being said, these rules have been agreed upon and in place and well communicated for some time. And so it's important for us that we focus on being safe and healthy. That's number one, and that's always been number one. And then number 2 is doing our best to stay focused on the goal and the purpose of why we're here, which is to win football games.
Sean, you said that it's a personal decision and it's a competitive decision. But do you feel like that your team is at a competitive disadvantage with how this has played out, or could be at a competitive disadvantage somewhere down the road?
Well, I think when the numbers are the numbers, based on what Jay said, some people are in a better position potentially than we are at this point, just looking at on the surface, the numbers. That being said, again, I go back to the personal decision on this thing, and I respect our players' positions. In my personal opinion, it's right to get vaccinated.
Have you had any communication with Starr, in particular, after opting out last season? On the surface, to see him be unvaccinated could raise some questions. Has he communicated anything to you in terms of his decision, other than it being a personal decision?
No.
Sean, talking about here the competitive disadvantage versus the personal aspect of it, the thing that's not being said is that you agree with the personal aspect of it, or at least you can understand where they're coming from. Decisions on the roster are made for competitive reasons. What then, regarding their decisions from a competitive standpoint to not get this vaccine, then plays into whether or not they stay on the team?
Yeah, that will not be a factor in deciding who stays and who goes.
What have you guys done as a team to educate guys, since they've been back in the building on the vaccine? Has it been kind of a continual, persistent effort? Like, what specific stuff have you guys done?
It's been nonstop, Matt. It's been absolutely nonstop. They've been well educated. We've done our part to educate them, build awareness. We're always educating on a lot of topics, this being one and a major one. So, there's not much room in our day left to do anything else other than educate on that and football. And I can tell you we've done our part to educate.
Sean, how frustrating is it when, you guys can do all the right things as far as coaching and, as far as game strategy goes and things like that and actually performing on the field, and then something like this where, you can have one position group get completely wiped out or partially wiped out because of this? I guess just how frustrating is that when it has nothing to do with the game itself? Yeah,
very frustrating. Very frustrating. There's people's livelihoods at stake in terms of, people's jobs are in their performance is judged off of wins and losses or how well a person does X or Y, and some of that's dependent upon other members of the team. That's why this is a team game. And being able to count on people is important. And so when you're going through a week, if this were a real week, and having the players out that we've had, that makes it hard to win games that way. And that's the competitive piece of this, Heather, and that's hard enough when it's non-COVID years based on natural injuries that come up through week-to-week games and practices. And now, not now, but as of a year ago and change, this came on the scene, and we continue to deal with it.
To Tim's question earlier and to Heather's, don't you almost have to build the roster in such a way that if you know you have a position group with several unvaccinated players, and how easy it is for them to have to quarantine if they come into close contact, as this situation has demonstrated, don't you just have to have enough numbers, whether it be on the practice squad or the active roster, to play a game?
Yeah, we'll do the best that we can, Jay. And obviously, Brandon and myself, we need to make smart decisions, smart, responsible decisions that are in the best interest of this football team. And so we take a lot of things into consideration. You guys know us now through 4 or 5 years now, but I can tell you that just vaccinated and unvaccinated will not be a variable in those decisions.
Sean, if we can take COVID out of this, if it's possible, but from a culture standpoint, you have a player today tweeting out his documentation from the NFL, mocking the protocols that were mutually agreed upon, the whole thing. You have players in your locker room picking sides and just making it anything, whatever locker room issue it is or whatever thing that they're dealing with, they're making it public. You've talked before about guys on Twitter and the discussions that you have. Where are you just with your players choosing to plant a flag on any issue like this?
Yeah, well, what really is a personal decision, I understand part of that. The other piece of it is we need to get focused on why we're here. And I've said before, we're here to, number one, be as safe and healthy as we can be in these COVID times, and then also win football games. And it's important that we're focused on the purpose of why we're here together in Buffalo.
It's been a few days since you had to remove some players from the building, and around that same time, the FDA approved the Pfizer vaccine. Have you had any players get vaccinated since earlier this week after what happened?
I don't believe, Matt, we have. I've heard some, let's call it positive or encouraging conversations with some of those players that are currently unvaccinated. And I think, quite honestly, this has been also, to some extent, a wake-up call for some of the guys as well. We'll see how much of that really moves the needle. No play on words there, but we'll see.
How delicate has this been for you to remain diplomatic, keep your locker rooms respect, try to make sure you play, that role that you need to do as a coach on so many different things? Other coaches have taken different tacks. Jerry Jones had said what he did. Ron Rivera, Mike Zimmer have been really upset about it. how has this been for you to try to find the right message, and are you comfortable with where you are right now?
Well, I think, Tim, listen, I'm not going to hide behind the fact that I'm passionate about doing what's right, and whether it's COVID or anything else. I respect people's positions in a lot of areas. Obviously, this is a hot topic. There's a lot of hot topics right now in our country. Respect is important. Doesn't mean that I'm not passionate about my position and passionate about what I feel is the right thing to do for the greater good of this country. And that, in my opinion, means getting vaccinated.
How tough is it to not be able to get through to players on this?
Well, it is tough. It's frustrating. It's challenging. However you want to say it, you know, I can't make the decision for them.
Sean, is Josh going to start on Saturday?
Yes.
And he will?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for that football question, Sal. Appreciate that.
Can you tell us what the plan is, maybe for how long he would go, or maybe can you also ask?
Yeah, and I'll just give you overall play time for everyone's sake. You know, some of the starters won't play, some will play. A majority will play. It'll be anywhere from, you know, one play, and this is not a cop-out. I'm just trying to give you my mindset right now. One play to they'll come out of the locker room at half and give it a series after half there in the third quarter. Where that falls for each and every individual, I think we'd get choppy, and this would be a 30-minute longer press conference here. So I'll just feel it out. I think it's the best way to give it to you guys right now.
Is there any, just with the 5 guys in the 5-day reentry cadence, is it any chance that they might be back in time or play for the game?
Yeah, there's a chance, John, at this point. There's a chance. We just have to take it one day at a time based on their cadence, as you said.
John, I'll take 2 more real quick. John, can you update Isaiah McKenzie injury-wise?
Yeah, he's got a shoulder right now he's going to deal with. So it's at this point in between a day-to-day and a week-to-week type of injury at this point.
Taryn was on the report yesterday too with hand, is that what it is?
Yeah, I would say similar as well. You know, we feel like it's nothing to be concerned about long-term. But again, it's in between a day-to-day and week-to-week type of injury at this point.
Just to be clear, you said Isaiah is similar to Taryn. You're not concerned long-term?
Not concerned long-term on either of the two. From our medical staff and what they know right now, it's still early after just a day or two on both of those guys, but we feel confident and encouraged by the early reports at this point.
Any update on Harrison Phillips?
No change at this point.
Clarification, I'm sorry, I know you're trying to get, on the players who are out or on the COVID list, when we talk about where they are, and are they on individual pass, or are they all on the same?
Yeah, that group of, I believe it's 4 that are currently out are all on a similar path at this point, yeah.